too small to be hacked because you're small, you think you're a small fish and you have no valuable data, it's nonsense, okay? Because hackers know that you don't have the time, money, or resource to deal with cybersecurity. So that makes you the number one target. So what happened was he actually jumped onto a Zoom call with his colleagues, the CEO and all the other VPs, and everybody approved for this transfer. So he wires the money. Only later to find out that all the people who were talking to were deep fakes. When exploits occur, when vulnerabilities occur, the job or the goal is to get kernel access to the machine so you become invisible and you can do a lot of stuff. But when you have project monitoring at the kernel level, they're there to protect you. But of course, when there's a screw up that occurs, the update got pushed out, the Microsoft OS doesn't like it, and of course, it purposely crashes the OS to protect your data and your file system.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another exciting episode of the VPNRanks podcast, where we engage with innovators and thought leaders in the cybersecurity industry. Today, we have a special guest who has made remarkable contributions to the field of cybersecurity. Joining us is Terry Cutler, an internationally acclaimed keynote speaker, author, and award-winning cybersecurity expert. Terry has been recognized as one of the top 40 global thought leaders in security and life safety and has been voted the #1 top influencer in cybersecurity by IFSEC Global for 3 consecutive years from 2018 to 2020. As the CEO of Cyology Labs and the founder of Internet Safety University, Terry has dedicated over 15 years to helping businesses and individuals protect their digital assets. Terry's book, The Insider Secrets to Internet Safety: Advice for a Professional Hacker, became an Amazon bestseller, educating readers on how to safeguard their online presence. With over 36,700 students from 150 countries enrolled in his Internet Safety University, Terry continues to make a significant impact on the global cybersecurity landscape. We are honored to have Terry Cutler with us today to share his insights, experiences, and advice on cybersecurity. Please join me in welcoming Terry Cutler to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Well, let's start with the first question. So Terry, you've had an impressive career in cybersecurity. Can you tell us a bit about your journey and how you became a leading expert in this field?
I haven't slept in 15 years. No, I'm kidding. So I've been in IT for a long time. So since the early 90s. So one of the largest software companies I worked for back in the early 2000s was Novell. For those of you that are the same age as me, you'll know this company. So in early 2003-ish, 4-ish, I started getting inspired by watching shows like CSI and 24. Maybe you've heard of Chloe O'Brien, Jack Bauer.
Yes,
and
I have.
so I was always wondering, how is Chloe O'Brien breaking all these systems so fast? And that's when I found at the time, it was a course called the Certified Ethical Hacker, where they teach you the same techniques that the bad guys used to break in, except using these skills for good. So I begged my boss to send me to this course, which was in Washington. So luckily he said yes. And in this course, I was training with the FBI, the CIA, Navy SEALs that were students in the class as well. So armed with the knowledge of how these hackers are getting in, I felt it was my duty to train the general public and business owners on how to keep safe online and prevent these data breaches. So I do a lot of talks around the world. I do a lot of interviews on television. But one of the challenges that was happening over that time was I can't be in 50 places at once. So how do I like omnipresence myself to a point where, like, you know, all the heavy lifting gets taken care of, and I'll just take care of the specific stuff. And that's when I created the digital course, Internet Safety University. By the way, today it's almost 40,000 students in it already.
Congratulations, Terry.
Thank you. So in that course, the whole course has been designed for the layman's terms, so anybody can follow along. Now, a lot of times I get the comment, well, what about the know-befores of the world, or these other types of phishing and training courses? My Internet Safety University is a step below that. It's to educate the people at home how to protect your Instagram accounts, your home computers, things like this, and understand the importance of cybersecurity so they can take that knowledge and bring that to the workforce. And then you can train them with the know-befores and stuff like keep them up to date. Then went on to win all the awards like you mentioned. And then I still getting comments about, you know, like, Terry, I don't have time to watch your videos. I don't have time to read your blogs. I don't have time to watch your course. But if I had you in my pocket, it would be so much easier. So So I spent 5 years trying to figure out what's the best way to bring that kind of value to the consumer space. And that's when I launched 2 years ago, the Fraudster app. So it's a free app that's available for both Android and Apple that keeps you up to date with the latest frauds and scams to watch out for. And as a new scam goes out, I can push notify the users on what to look out for so they don't get hit.
Wow, that sounds really interesting. I think I've actually
It's a
heard
tip of the
Fraudster,
iceberg
though.
you're seeing.
Oh, really? Okay. Okay. So let's move on to the next question. So many small to medium-sized businesses believe they're too small to be targeted by hackers. What are some of the most surprising cases you've encountered where small businesses were targeted, and what were the consequences?
I mean, we see all kinds of crazy stuff. And the notion that you're too small to be hacked because you're small, you think you're a small fish and you have no valuable data, it's nonsense, okay? Because hackers know they don't have the time, money, or resource to deal with cybersecurity. So that makes you the #1 target. And they're going after people that own a flower shop, for example. They can scam them out of $27,000. They can go after, a company of 18 employees, get into their email systems. And here's a real case that happened. So this company had 18 employees, not for profit. They got in and they're reading everybody's emails. And what happened, it got to a point where they were coming up to this year's funding. They were going to get $500,000 from a US company for funding. And the scammers got access to the bank change form, void checks, digital signatures. So they took this information and manipulated it and sent it over to the source company saying, listen, we've been having problems with our Canadian bank. Can you wire the money to Hong Kong? And sure enough, all the information matched up and they wired the money to the wrong place. So the end goal is all about monetization. If they can extort you or scam you, that's what's going to happen.
Another question that I have is, you've been known to hack client systems before the cyber criminals do. Can you share a particularly memorable ethical hacking experience that revealed an unexpected vulnerability?
Sure. So let me clarify what that means. So part of our job as ethical hackers is we do what's called penetration testing or ethical hacking. It's where we get hired to legally help hack your company, find all the holes before the bad guys do. And in a real example that happened, many years ago, we did a story with them with IFSEC Global, where we got hired to hack a company from the outside and we just couldn't do it. So we said, screw it, we're going over there. And I drove up to the receptionist at the office and I said, I feel really embarrassed, may I please use your washroom? But the problem was the bathroom was behind the counter, so she had to buzz me through. And luckily she said, make it quick. And when I was in there, I left 2 USB keys in the stalls. And I walked out and I said, thank you so much, it'll never happen again. And after a certain amount of time, a curious employee is like, oh, what's this? Plugged it into his computer, and it auto ran my software at the time, which allowed me to get in through the back door and bypass all their security. So the IT manager wasn't too happy about that, but hey, it worked.
Wow, that's an amazing story. Yeah. And that really that's a perfect example of how penetration could work without hacking too, That's a great example.
One of many stories.
Terry, you also spoke at a conference about the intersection of cybersecurity and robotics. How do you see cybersecurity challenges evolving as robotics and AI become more integrated into everyday life?
It's going to get crazy. We're already seeing it now. You may have heard the story, I believe it was in Asia somewhere, where an employee, the chief financial officer, wired $50 million, or was it $25 million to the wrong bank account. Now you might be thinking, how crazy is that? Call the CEO, find out if this is real, right? So happened, he actually jumped onto a Zoom call with his colleagues, the CEO and all the other VPs, and everybody approved for this transfer. So he wires the money. Only later to find out that all the people who were talking to were deep fakes. So AI was able to regenerate the employees onto a Zoom call and interact with the employee to say, yes, wire the money. So we're seeing an emergence with AI now where It's even crafting really, really sophisticated phishing emails. And it looks really legit. It's been well researched because now, they can take information from what you posted online and use it against you in a cyber attack. And that's one of the things I often do when I do live events. My signature talk is the insider secrets to how and why you're getting hacked. So I walk through in storytelling the ethical hacker methodology of how they're going to research you online, how they're going to find you, how they're going to target you, and then exploit you, and what they're going to do to you once they're in. So I cover all that in there. So there's a lot of stuff.
Since we saw the Microsoft outage incident recently, we have a question about that as well. So, in the significant Microsoft outage attributed to the CrowdStrike update, what are your thoughts about the incident and what lessons can businesses learn from it?
It's unfortunate, but the thing is, it's a double-edged sword because there was legislation that was put in that AV vendors have to have kernel access to be able to do the job properly. Because what happens here is when exploits occur, when vulnerabilities occur, the job or the goal is to get kernel access to the machine, so you become invisible, and you could do a lot of stuff. But when you have CrowdStrike monitoring the kernel level, they're there to protect you. But of course, when there's a screw up that occurs, the update got pushed out. The Microsoft OS doesn't like it, and of course, it purposely crashes the OS to protect your data and your file system. So it's like a fail-safe. Unfortunately, yes, CrowdStrike rolled out an update. So if your computer was able to stay on long enough, it can roll back the update. But all those ones that couldn't get back online and stayed in a reboot loop, you have to go manually one by one every computer. And imagine the ones that had BitLocker turned on, you didn't have the recovery key, or it got messy. It must have taken 5 to 10 minutes per computer minimum to get them online. And some of our clients had 8 offices and only 2 technicians for 400 employees. And they're still recovering this morning. So
it's a lot of downtime.
It's a lot of downtime. Yeah. And who's going to pay for that? I mean, cyber insurance I don't think it's going to pay for that, because it's not the customer's fault, and it's not Microsoft's fault theoretically. So who's going to pay for that?
Exactly. The Insider Secrets to Internet Safety became an Amazon bestseller. Can you share a real-life incident or case study that inspired a chapter in your book, and what impact did it have on your approach to cybersecurity?
To be honest, it's actually still on the bestseller list today, 4 years later. So it came out in April 1st of 2020. And the real story behind that book was I did not want to write the book, because when I was with my editor, he's like, Terry, you got to write this book. It's going to be amazing. I'm like, why am I going to write a book when all my stuff is digital? It's all video based. And if I write this book, it's going to be obsolete by the time, it hits the shelves. And I couldn't be more wrong. So what happened was I distilled the fundamentals from my course into the book. So the book is a distilled version of the course. So all the fundamentals are in there on how to create your strong password, how to look out for certain scams, how to protect your kids online. We get a lot of calls, or if I get a lot of questions, especially at live events. My child, did something inappropriate online. He thought he was talking to a girl, but it was a recording, and now they got video of him. They want to extort him. It comes out all the time. So I put all those frequently asked questions that I get at events into the book, and so that's how it became. There's so much need for it, I guess, and it's still on the bestseller list today. So I'm happy about that. There's another book coming out too at some point, so stay tuned.
I would love to get my hands on this book too. I want to see what happens all over the world. Now we're moving on to cybersecurity myths. What's the funniest or most ridiculous cybersecurity myth you've heard, and how do you debunk it?
That no one's going to want to hack me. So again, cyber criminals know you don't have the time, money, or resources to protect yourself against cybercrime. So the average time, believe it or not, that a hacker is in your system is 286 days. That's the average time before being detected. And a lot of times they get detected because the hacker screwed up somewhere. So the challenge that we're seeing is that a lot of companies don't have the proper detection technology in place to know there's a hacker in there. And worst off, they don't have a proper response plan to get the hacker out once he's been detected. The challenge is also is that the management team still think, oh yeah, I'm gonna get this brand new firewall and this is gonna keep me safe. Like newsflash, right? Hackers aren't trying to waste time trying to hack your firewall and get detected. I mean, why would they? When all they have to do is send a crafted email to one of your employees, have them click on a link that they're not supposed to, and now they become an insider into your network and they have full reign.
I actually read about, I forgot what it's called, but there's a malware going on which is pretending to be something that it isn't, and it has already infiltrated a lot of computers, and it's working in the manner that like a Bitcoin miner works, you know?
Yep.
I've actually read about it. So yeah, I understand what you're talking about. So let's move on to Cyology Labs vision. What is your long-term vision for Cyology Labs, and how do you plan to adapt to future cybersecurity challenges?
I mean, obviously, like our mission is to keep an eye on our clients' cybersecurity. So we take a holistic approach where we protect all of your attack surfaces in one holistic dashboard. So we look at your endpoint, your network, and your cloud for monitoring everything. And we also look at your attack surfaces to show you what's vulnerable. So a lot of times we give out a lot of free audits to clients. So they'll come to us and say, Terry, I want to buy from you guys, but I'm not sure, I think I'm safe. So we'll run an attack surface report on you to show you from the point of view of how vulnerable you are. Like it's almost like looking over the hacker's shoulder to see how vulnerable you are. We're going to see end-of-life software is exposed, remote access has been exposed, invalid protocols that are activated. So we find all these things online to show you value up front, to show you we can help you by actually helping you in this report, which has all the details on how to remediate. And that's totally free. And we do this to gain your trust, in full transparency. We gain your trust, and people buy from people they like and trust. So it's a trust game, cybersecurity, essentially.
What is your advice for aspiring cybersecurity professionals? What advice would you give these young professionals to enter the cybersecurity field?
All right, I'm going to get a lot of hate from universities.
Okay.
So I've been in the game for a long time. And when I see students that say, oh yeah, I want to enter cybersecurity, what does that mean? Cybersecurity is this big. Okay, do you want to become an ethical hacker? Do you want to become a forensic investigator? Do you want to become a policy guy? There's all these subdivisions of cybersecurity, and you cannot know it all. So pick your practice that most interests you. And let's say my journey was ethical hacking, but I also hang out and team up with forensic investigators. So I get to understand how they interact with what I'm doing. And so I know enough not to be fooled by somebody who might be talking to me about something, but I can always leverage those guys to like complement what I'm missing. Same for policy stuff. I don't deal with any of that boring stuff. Our job is to try and break things and help them find all the holes. The other challenge I have with universities is that their content is outdated, and there's not much experts actually teaching it. So we've seen cases where I hired an intern, as an example, who spent 3 years in university to get a master's in cybersecurity and cybercrime. Never installed Kali Linux, never installed Windows 10. I'm like, but what have you been learning for 3 years? They've been learning from PowerPoint. So my suggestion is, you want to get certified. You want to take the EC Council courses or the SANS Institute courses or the OSCP. You want to take those certification courses because the people behind this training are masters in their domains. Not only that, when you get certified, you can go anywhere on the planet and get a job because you've passed the live exams and things like this. They're not going to care that you got some local college or some local university degree, right? Because it changes so fast, and a lot of times you're obsolete. If you're spending 3 years in school for cybersecurity, you're almost obsolete by the time you get out. You need to really stay current all the time. And the other thing with cybersecurity too, and I'm sorry for sounding so negative, but I want to prepare you for this. It's a very depressing field, because a lot of times the things that we're often doing or recommending is somewhere between not working and barely working at all. The cyber criminals are always 5, 10, 15 steps ahead of us. And we could be recommending stuff to customers where they only implement maybe half of the stuff we've told them to do. And then they get breached and they wonder why it's not working or it's too expensive. And but the thing is that you don't give up. And when you learn something new, you want to share this information online. So your goal is to build a personal brand. You want to be able to build up your personal brand so that you become an expert in your field. So let's take an example of what I've been doing. So I've been doing television and YouTube content since 2008. Actually, sorry, 2006 was my first article went out on Canada.com about how to protect your identity online. So your goal is to put out content as much as possible, build up a library behind you so that anybody that comes to you, they can get this trust factor because you have all these years of experience. And it helps me often when I'm up against these other companies and they got three names in front of them, 3 companies. Who do we pick? Oh, well, Terry's been in the game for so much longer. He's got all this credible truth. We're going to go with him. So I've won a lot of lucrative deals over bigger companies than me. And so brand works.
That makes a lot of sense. Yes, and I've learned a lot from your advice as well. It actually makes sense that the things that they're teaching in university, not just the cybersecurity field, is pretty outdated, and we need practical experience. You're right.
Yeah.
Right. All right, so now I have the last question for you, which is my favorite question. So if you could have any superpower related to cybersecurity, what would it be and why?
If I had the magic wand, I wish that I would be able to push all the awareness training that we have access to into the minds of everybody so that they know how to spot a scam or a hack that's coming at them and how they can know that, the cybercrime's occurring and they can actually stop it. That would be my wish.
Perfect. So that would necessitate that everyone knows how to protect their systems without actually being it'll be a proactive approach to solve the cybersecurity problem.
So they would have this knowledge without becoming a cybersecurity expert.
I get it. Terry, it was wonderful talking to you, and I got to learn a lot from you in this interview as well. And I'm looking forward to reading both your books and for further interviews in the future. Thanks a lot for joining us, Terry.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. Thank you.